Commander Kate Morrison stood by the large window of the space station. Below her, she could see the diplomatic complex where aliens from 1,000 different worlds gathered. Their ships sparkled like tiny lights around the massive building. These aliens came here to talk, to make deals, and to argue about the future of the galaxy. None of them knew Kate was watching them. None of them knew what she really did. That was exactly how it needed to be. Humans had joined the Galactic Council 12 years ago. In that time, everyone learned that humans were friendly and helpful. They were good at talking through problems. They were smart engineers who could fix almost anything. They were always ready to help when someone needed them. The galaxy liked humans. The galaxy trusted humans. What the galaxy did not know was that humans had learned something important a long time ago. Peace was good. Talking was good. But sometimes talking was not enough. Sometimes bad people did bad things, and someone had to stop them. Someone had to work in the shadows while everyone else smiled in the light. Kate touched her ear. A tiny device there let her talk to her team. Her second-in-command, Lieutenant Dan Carter, spoke quietly from somewhere deep in the station's maintenance tunnels. The target just walked into the shopping area. I am moving closer now. Good, Kate said softly. Remember, leave no signs. We were never here. The target was an alien named Krell. He was of Rexian, a species that looked like giant lizards with 4 arms. Krell was an arms dealer. He sold weapons to anyone with money. But these were not normal weapons. These were biological weapons. Diseases that could kill thousands of people. Viruses that made entire planets sick. The Galactic Council knew about Krell. They had been investigating him for 2 years. But the Council moved slowly. They had rules. They had procedures. They had to gather evidence, hold meetings, and vote on everything. It would take years before they could arrest Krell. Years in which he would sell more weapons. Years in which thousands of innocent people would die. Humans did not have patience for that. When someone was killing innocent people, humans acted fast. Kate looked at her watch. In 1 hour, Krell would be unconscious in a shipping container on a human transport ship. In 2 hours, he would be on his way to a secret human prison. In 3 hours, Kate's team would start taking apart his entire criminal network. By morning, all of his weapons would be destroyed, all of his dealers would be arrested, and thousands of lives would be saved. And the Galactic Council would never know that humans had done anything at all. Kate checked the displays on her wrist computer. Everything was going perfectly. Her team had practiced this kind of operation hundreds of times. They knew exactly what to do. They moved like ghosts through the station, invisible to all the cameras and sensors. On the other side of the station, Ambassador Helen Grant was shaking hands with important aliens. She was smiling and laughing, talking about trade agreements and peace treaties. Everyone liked Helen. She was warm and friendly and made everyone feel comfortable. But while Helen smiled, she was also thinking about the intelligence report she had read that morning. The Gel Consortium was planning something bad. They wanted to put huge taxes on 3 independent colonies. These taxes would be so high that the colonies could not pay them. The colonies would go bankrupt. People would lose their homes and jobs. Helen knew that Kate's team would handle this problem too. In 2 days, they would plant evidence that showed the Gel Consortium's plan. The evidence would be leaked to the right people. The consortium's own allies would turn against them. The plan would fall apart before it could hurt anyone. This was what humans did. They smiled and talked and made friends with everyone. But, behind the scenes, they protected the innocent and stopped the bad people. They did the dirty work that no one else wanted to do. Kate heard Dan's voice again in her ear. Target is down. Package secured. Beginning extraction. Perfect, Kate replied. See you at the rendezvous point. She turned away from the window and walked calmly through the station. She passed dozens of aliens. They did not look at her twice. She was just another human, probably a diplomat or a tourist. They had no idea that she commanded one of the most dangerous military units in the galaxy. The unit was called Special Forces. Most aliens had never heard that term before. Those who had heard it did not really understand what it meant. They thought it was just another name for soldiers. They were wrong. Special forces were not like normal soldiers. Normal soldiers fought in big battles with tanks and ships and thousands of troops. Special forces worked in small teams. They went into dangerous places where no one else could go. They did impossible missions that no one else could do. They were the best fighters, the smartest thinkers, and the bravest warriors that humanity had, and they were everywhere. While the galaxy saw humans as peaceful and friendly, special forces teams were working on 100 different worlds. They rescued hostages. They stopped terrorist attacks. They gathered intelligence on criminal organizations. They protected human interests and saved innocent lives. They did all of this in secret. The galaxy never knew they were there. Kate reached the docking bay where her ship waited. It looked like a normal transport vessel. It had the markings of a cargo company. No one would guess that it was actually a military ship with advanced weapons and stealth technology. Dan was already there, along with the rest of the team. Krell was unconscious in a secure container. The operation had been a complete success. "Good work, everyone," Kate said. "Let's go home." As the ship left the station and jumped into faster-than-light travel, Kate allowed herself a small smile. Another mission complete. Another group of innocents saved. Another criminal stopped. Tomorrow, there would be another mission. There was always another mission. Evil never slept, and neither did the people who fought against it. But that was okay. Kate and her team were ready. They would always be ready, because that was what special forces did. They protected the innocent. They stopped the guilty. They worked in the shadows so that others could live in the light. The galaxy would learn about them eventually. Maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow. But someday, the truth would come out. And on that day, the galaxy would understand that humans were not just friendly diplomats and helpful engineers. Humans were warriors, the kind of warriors that nightmares were made of. The galaxy called them special forces, and soon the galaxy would learn to fear that name. The research station floated quietly at the edge of the Tellus sector. Inside, 53 scientists worked on studying strange bacteria that could live in extreme conditions. They were peaceful people doing peaceful work. The station had only basic security. A few guards with simple weapons, nothing more. The Krejzer Empire did not care about peaceful research. They only cared about power and conquest. For months they had been attacking neutral space. They captured mining stations and made the workers into slaves. The Galactic Council kept sending them warnings, but the Krejzer just ignored them. The Krejzer had 400 warships. They were brutal fighters who showed no mercy. Most species were too afraid to fight them. So the Krejzer kept taking what they wanted. Then they attacked the human research station. General Vrak commanded the Krejzer attack fleet. He had 20 ships with him, more than enough to destroy one small research station. When his ships arrived, the station sent out a distress signal. The scientists gathered in a safe room and waited for death. Vrak laughed. This would be easy. His soldiers would take the station in minutes. They would capture the scientists and sell them as slaves. It would be a good day. 6 hours after the distress signal, a single human ship appeared. It was small, much smaller than Vrak's warships. It had no military markings on it. It just floated there in space, doing nothing. Vrak could not believe it. One tiny ship? This was the human response. He ordered his ships to destroy it immediately. But the human ship did not fight. Instead, 30 figures in black armor launched from the ship's cargo bay. They flew through space toward the research station. Vrak watched in confusion. What were they doing? Lieutenant Jake Sullivan was the first to land on the station's hull. His magnetic boots locked onto the metal surface. He pulled out a cutting tool and began making a hole through the airlock. Around him, his team did the same. They worked fast and silent. They had trained for this kind of mission hundreds of times. Jake spoke quietly into his radio. "Bravo, team. Go to the science wing and protect the scientists. Charlie, team. Put explosives on the Krejzer ships that are docked here. We are sending them a message." Inside the station, Krejzer soldiers walked through the corridors. They were looking for the scientists. They held their weapons ready. They were confident. After all, they had the station surrounded. There was no escape. Then all the lights went out. The Krejzer soldiers stopped walking. They turned on their thermal sensors to see body heat in the darkness. But they saw nothing. The human operators were wearing special suits that hid their heat. The Krejar were blind. The humans moved through the darkness like ghosts. They wore special goggles that let them see in the dark. Everything looked green through the goggles, but they could see perfectly. The Krejar could not see them at all. One by one, the Krejar soldiers disappeared. A soldier would turn a corner and never come back. A group would go to investigate a sound and vanish without a trace. The humans moved so quietly that the other Krejar did not even hear their friends being captured. By the time Vrak realized something was wrong, half his boarding party was gone. "What are they?" one of his officers whispered. His voice shook with fear. "The humans sent soldiers, but they fight like demons." Jake found the room where the scientists were hiding. He cut through the door carefully. The scientists jumped in fear when he entered. They expected a Krejar soldier to kill them. Instead, they saw a human in black armor who kneeled down beside them. "You are safe now," Jake said calmly. "Stay here until we tell you it is okay to come out." The scientists could only stare at him. They could not believe they were being rescued. Outside the station, Charlie Team finished putting explosives on the Krejar boarding ships. These were the small ships that had carried the soldiers to the station. When Charlie Team pressed the button, all the ships exploded at once. Bright flashes lit up the darkness of space. Now the Krejar soldiers could not escape. They were trapped. General Vrak finally understood. He had not attacked a defenseless research station. He had walked into a trap. These humans were not normal soldiers. They were something else, something terrifying. The human operators did not kill the Krejar soldiers. They did not need to. They simply moved through the station like shadows, knocking out soldiers with stun weapons and tying them up. The Krejar tried to fight back, but they could not fight an enemy they could not see. 43 minutes after the humans landed on the station, the operation was over. Every scientist was safe. Every Krejar soldier was captured and tied up, waiting for the Galactic Council police to arrive. Not a single person had been killed. Jake stood in the station's control room and sent a message to the council. "The station is secure. Hostiles are captured. Send peacekeepers to take them into custody." Then he and his team left the station the same way they had arrived. They flew back to their ship in their black armor. The ship activated its stealth systems and disappeared into space before General Vrak could even respond. Vrak sat in his command chair, shaking with rage and fear. His entire boarding party had been defeated in less than an hour. By 30 human soldiers. 30? How was that possible? News of the incident spread across the galaxy in days. Everyone heard about it. The mighty Krejar Empire, with their 400 warships and their reputation for brutality, had been humiliated by a handful of human soldiers. The Krejar demanded answers from the humans. Who were these soldiers? What kind of training did they have? What weapons did they use? The human ambassador just smiled politely and gave a simple answer. They are called Special Forces. The aliens did not understand what that meant. Special Forces? What made them special? But the Krejar understood. They had seen what these Special Forces could do. They had felt the terror of fighting an enemy they could not see or hear. They had experienced defeat at the hands of soldiers who fought like ghosts. The Krejar Empire issued a secret order to all their military commanders. Avoid conflict with human forces. Do not attack human stations or ships. If you encounter human special forces, retreat immediately. Other species heard about this order. They were shocked. The Krejar were afraid of humans? The brutal warriors who conquered dozens of worlds were scared of 30 human soldiers? Military commanders from other species began studying what had happened at the research station. They watched the security footage that survived. They read the reports from the Krejar soldiers who were captured. They tried to understand how the humans had won so easily, but they could not understand it. The humans had better training, yes. They had better technology, yes. But it was more than that. The humans fought with a level of skill and coordination that seemed impossible. They moved like one mind in 30 bodies. The galaxy began to realize something important. Humans were not just friendly diplomats and clever engineers. They were also warriors. Dangerous warriors who could strike from the shadows and disappear before anyone knew they were there. The name Special Forces started appearing in military reports and intelligence briefings across the galaxy. Species that had never worried about humans before now started watching them more carefully. And in the darkness of space, more Special Forces teams continued their work. They rescued hostages. They stopped smugglers. They protected the innocent and hunted the guilty. The galaxy was starting to learn the truth about humanity, and the truth was terrifying. The Galactic Intelligence Bureau was the most powerful spy organization in the galaxy. For 300 years they had watched everything. They gathered secrets from every world. They knew what every government was planning. They could make governments fall or rise with just information. The Bureau did not believe in things they could not explain. They believed in facts and data. They had cameras everywhere. They had spies everywhere. Nothing happened in the galaxy without them knowing about it. Then they tried to spy on humanity. That was their first mistake. Director Len sat in his office reading reports. He was getting more and more frustrated with each page. The Bureau had sent 12 different agents to spy on human space in the last 6 months. All 12 had disappeared, not dead. Not captured, just gone. Their tracking implants stopped working. Their ships vanished from all sensors. Their last known locations showed nothing unusual. It was as if they had never existed at all. One analyst whispered nervously, "It is like they are ghosts. They just disappear." Len did not believe in ghosts. He believed someone was stopping his agents. The humans were hiding something, and he was going to find out what it was. He decided to send his best team. If anyone could discover human secrets, they could. The team had 12 members. They were the best spies in the galaxy. They could break into any computer system. They could disguise themselves as any species. They had technology that made them invisible to most sensors. They were confident that they would succeed where the others had failed. They entered Earth's atmosphere using fake identification papers. Everything went smoothly. The humans did not seem to notice them at all. The team leader smiled. This would be easy. They lasted 4 hours. Major Lisa Grant had been watching the alien spies since their ship entered the solar system. She was the commander of a secret human organization called the Intelligence Defense Agency. This group was so secret that even most human governments did not know it existed. Their job was to catch foreign spies and protect human secrets. Lisa was very good at her job. So was her team. Corporal Ryan Blake sat at a computer console watching several screens at once. Subject 1 just walked into the transit hub. He is trying to hack into our civilian network now, let him in, Lisa said calmly. But send him to the fake server we prepared. I want to see what he is looking for. The Bureau's spies thought they were being very clever. They hacked into what they believed was a secure military database. They downloaded files about human weapons, fleet positions, and special forces training. They were excited. This information would be very valuable. What they did not know was that every file they stole was fake. The humans had prepared all of it carefully. The files looked real. They had real military codes and real technical details. But all the important information was wrong. The fleet positions were incorrect. The weapon specifications were false. The training information was misleading. Lisa watched everything on her screens. She had to admit these spies were good. They moved carefully and avoided the obvious traps. They used encrypted communications that would have fooled most species. But humans had been playing spy games for thousands of years. Humans invented half the tricks these aliens were using. They took the bait, Ryan reported. Subject 1 is sending the stolen data to his ship now. Good, Lisa said. Now let us show them what happens when you spy on humans. Activate Ghost Protocol. All around the world, human counterintelligence teams moved at the same time. They had been watching and waiting. Now they struck. The Bureau's spies suddenly found that their escape routes were blocked. Their communication devices stopped working. They tried to run, but everywhere they turned, there were human agents waiting for them. One spy tried to flee through a maintenance tunnel. He ran as fast as he could. Then he turned a corner and ran straight into Sergeant Amy Fletcher. She had been waiting there for 20 minutes. She fired a stun weapon and the spy collapsed. Amy dragged him away without saying a single word. Another spy tried to fight. He pulled out a weapon and aimed at a human agent. The fight lasted exactly 3 seconds. Lieutenant Greg Mason moved so fast that the spy barely saw him. Greg knocked the weapon away, twisted the spy's arm, and had him face down on the ground before the spy could even react. Within 1 hour, all 12 spies were captured. They sat in a secure facility, their hands tied, staring at the humans who had caught them. They could not believe what had happened. How did the humans know they were there? How did they move so fast? How did they lose so quickly? Lisa walked into the room and stood in front of them. She did not smile. She did not look angry. She just looked at them calmly and spoke. You entered our space without permission. You tried to steal classified information. You violated our sovereignty. One of the spies was a Velcrin named Czar. He glared at Lisa with hatred in his eyes. The Bureau will come for us, he said. His voice was full of anger and threat. Lisa smiled then. It was a small, cold smile. No, she said quietly. They will not. Because as far as the Bureau knows, you never existed. Your ships disappeared from their sensors the moment you entered our space. Your handlers think you died in an accident. The galaxy thinks you are gone. We erased you. Czar's face turned pale. He finally understood how much trouble he was in. This is what happens when you spy on humanity, Lisa continued. We do not kill you. We do not torture you. We simply erase you from existence. And when we are done with you, you will go home with a very clear message for your director. She leaned closer to Czar and spoke very quietly. Stay out of human space. If you come back, you will not get a second chance. The spies were kept in the facility for 1 week. During that time, human interrogators asked them many questions. The spies answered everything. They were too frightened to resist. They told the humans about all the Bureau's operations, all their secret bases, all their other agents. Then the humans released them. They put them on a ship and sent them back to the Bureau. When the spies arrived home, they had haunted looks in their eyes. They had seen something that terrified them. They had met an enemy that was smarter, faster, and more dangerous than anything they had ever faced. Director Len read their reports in silence. His hand shook slightly as he turned the pages. When he finished reading, he sat very still for a long time. Then he wrote a classified order and sent it to every Bureau agent in the galaxy. Do not engage human intelligence assets. Do not attempt infiltration of human space. Do not underestimate their capabilities. Consider humans a Level 1 threat. Level 1 threat was the highest threat rating the Bureau had. It meant an enemy that could destroy you completely. The Bureau had only given that rating to 3 other species in 300 years. Now humans were on that list. News of the Bureau's failure spread through the intelligence community. Other spy agencies heard what had happened. They were shocked. The mighty Bureau, the organization that had never failed, had been defeated by human counterintelligence. Other species began pulling their own spies out of human space. It was not worth the risk. If the Bureau could not spy on humans successfully, no one could. The galaxy was learning more about humanity with each passing day. Humans were not just warriors who fought in the shadows. They were also masters of intelligence and counterintelligence. They could see threats coming before anyone else knew they existed. They could stop enemy spies before those spies even knew they had been detected. The term Special Forces took on new meaning. It did not just mean elite soldiers. It meant an entire system of intelligence, planning, and execution that was far ahead of anything else in the galaxy. And the galaxy was beginning to understand something very important. Humans were dangerous. Very dangerous, not because they were violent or cruel, but because they were smart, patient, and absolutely ruthless when protecting their interests. The galaxy had made a mistake by underestimating them. That mistake would not be repeated. Helios Prime was a peaceful colony world. 50,000 people lived there. Most of them were farmers who grew food for other colonies. Some were scientists who studied the planet's strange plants and animals. They had a small defense force with basic weapons. Nothing that could stop a real military attack. The Skorath Dominion saw Helios Prime as an easy target. They wanted the planet's resources. They wanted to enslave the colonists and make them work in mines. The Skorath had 80 warships and thousands of soldiers. They were brutal warriors who showed no mercy to anyone. When the Skorath fleet arrived, they surrounded the planet completely. No ships could get in or out. Then they started bombing the planet from space. Buildings exploded. Roads were destroyed. Power stations went dark. Within a few hours, the colony's defenses were gone. Warlord Krenth commanded the Skorath fleet. He sent a message to the surviving colonists. Surrender in 24 hours or we will burn your entire world. Everyone will die. The colonists huddled in underground shelters. They had no fleet to protect them. No reinforcements were coming. No one in the galaxy could help them in time. They were going to die. Then, 5 hours before the deadline, a single human ship appeared at the edge of the star system. It was small and looked like a cargo ship. The Skorath sensors barely noticed it. Krenth laughed when his officers told him about it. One tiny ship? That was the human response. But that ship was not a cargo vessel. It was a stealth frigate called the Silent Runner, and it carried 48 Special Forces operators. Captain Kyle Rogers stood on the bridge looking at the tactical displays. 80 enemy warships, thousands of enemy soldiers on the ground, only a few hours until the deadline. The situation looked impossible. His second-in-command, Lieutenant Nina Cruz, looked at him with concern. She had served with Kyle for 6 years. She knew that look in his eyes. It was the look he got when he was planning something crazy. "You are not seriously thinking what I think you are thinking," she said. Kyle smiled. "We cannot fight their fleet," he said, "but we do not have to. We just have to make them think they are fighting something much worse." He split his team into 3 groups. Alpha Team, led by Sergeant Ben Harris, would sneak onto the Skorath flagship and sabotage it. Bravo Team, led by Nina, would land on the planet and help the colonists fight back. Charlie Team, led by Kyle himself, would attack the Skorath supply depot on the moon. The Skorath did not see them coming. Ben's team launched from the Silent Runner in small stealth pods. These pods were so small and quiet that the Skorath sensors did not detect them. The pods drifted through the debris left by the bombing and attached themselves to the flagship's hull like barnacles on a ship. Ben cut through the hull and led his team inside. They moved through the maintenance tunnels, places where the Skorath crew never went. Ben found the ship's main computer and connected a small device to it. The device uploaded a virus that spread through the ship's systems. The virus was very clever. It did not destroy the ship immediately. Instead, it waited and spread to every other ship in the fleet through their communication network. Then at the right moment, it would activate and scramble all their navigation systems, jam their communications, and mess up their weapons targeting. The entire fleet would become blind and helpless. On the planet's surface, Nina found the colonists hiding in a bunker. They looked terrified and hopeless. Many were crying. They thought they were all going to die. Nina stood in front of them and spoke calmly but firmly. "We are not done yet. The Skorath think they have won. Let us prove them wrong. Who knows this planet better than anyone?" Some of the colonists raised their hands. They had lived on this planet for years. They knew every mountain, every valley, every cave. "Good," Nina said. "Then you're going to help us make the Skorath's life very difficult." Nina organized the colonists into resistance groups. She taught them how to set traps and how to ambush enemy patrols. The colonists knew the terrain perfectly, so they could move quickly and hide easily. The Skorath soldiers, who were used to fighting in open battles, did not know how to fight against an enemy that disappeared into the landscape. A Skorath patrol would march down a road. Suddenly, explosives would detonate under their feet. Before they could react, the attackers would be gone, vanished into caves or forests. By the time reinforcements arrived, there would be no one to fight. On the moon, Kyle's team approached the Skorath supply depot. This was where the enemy kept all their food, fuel, and ammunition. It was heavily defended with automated guns and armored soldiers. Kyle did not attack the depot directly. That would have been suicide. Instead, his team planted powerful explosives on the depot's support columns. These were the metal beams that held up the entire structure. When Kyle pressed the detonator, the explosives went off simultaneously. The support columns collapsed. The entire depot came crashing down, burying all the supplies under tons of rubble. Without those supplies, the Skorath fleet could not continue their siege for long. Warlord Krenth sat in his command chair, watching his invasion fall apart. His flagship systems were malfunctioning. His fleet could not coordinate their movements. His soldiers on the ground were being ambushed constantly. His supplies were destroyed. Nothing was going according to plan. "How many humans are on the planet?" he roared at his officers. "We do not know, Warlord," his chief officer replied nervously. "Our sensors detect at least 300 hostile signatures, but they move too fast to track accurately. 300 human soldiers. That was what Krenth believed he was fighting. In reality, there were only 48. But those 48 were so effective, so well trained, that they seemed like an army. As the days passed, the Skorath situation got worse and worse. Ships reported systems failures. Captains argued about strategy. Soldiers refused to go on patrol because they were too afraid of ambushes. The mighty invasion force was falling apart. Krenth realized he had 2 choices. He could stay and keep fighting, which would probably result in his entire fleet being destroyed. or he could retreat and accept the shame of defeat. Neither choice was good. Finally, he made his decision. He ordered a full retreat. The Skorath fleet withdrew from Helios Prime, leaving behind their dead and their pride. When Galactic Council peacekeepers arrived the next day, they found something amazing. The colonists were alive and well. The planet was secure, and there was no sign of the human operators who had saved them. The humans had simply disappeared, like ghosts in the night. Kyle stood on the bridge of the Silent Runner as it jumped into faster-than-light travel. Nina joined him, looking tired but satisfied. "Another mission accomplished," she said. Kyle nodded. He did not feel proud or excited. Special Forces operators did not do this work for glory. They did it because it needed to be done. They did it because innocent people needed protection. They did it because they were the only ones who could. News of the siege of Helios Prime spread through the galaxy like wildfire. Everyone heard the story. A tiny human force had defeated a massive invasion fleet. 48 operators had beaten 80 warships and thousands of soldiers. The Skorath Dominion refused to speak about it publicly. They were too ashamed. But behind closed doors, their military commanders issued new orders to all their forces. Do not attack human colonies. Do not engage human military forces. If you encounter human special forces, retreat immediately and request backup. Better yet, avoid them completely. Other species studied what had happened at Helios Prime. Military academies added it to their textbooks as an example of perfect asymmetric warfare. Intelligence agencies tried to figure out how the humans had done it. Everyone wanted to understand the secret of human special forces, but there was no secret. Just training, discipline, intelligence, and courage. The humans were simply better at this kind of fighting than anyone else. The galaxy was learning to respect humanity. More importantly, it was learning to fear them. Because if 48 humans could defeat an invasion fleet, what could thousands of them do? The galaxy did not want to find out. 5 years had passed since Helios Prime. The galaxy had changed in that time. Everyone knew about human special forces now. Military commanders spoke about them in hushed voices. Intelligence directors included them in threat assessments. Some species thought the stories about them were exaggerated. Others believed every word and were terrified. But everyone agreed on one thing. You did not want human special forces coming after you. The Galactic Council had grown comfortable with humanity. Humans were good allies. They kept their promises. They helped with peacekeeping missions. They shared technology and resources. The Council trusted them. What the Council did not know was that humans had been preparing for a much bigger threat. They had been getting ready for the Wrath Collective. The Wrath were an ancient species. They had technology that was thousands of years more advanced than anything in the galaxy. They had conquered dozens of civilizations and enslaved entire species. They were ruthless and powerful. For centuries, they had ignored the younger races, thinking they were not worth their attention. Then they decided to conquer the Galactic Council. The Wrath fleet appeared without warning. 2,000 warships jumped into Council space. Each ship was massive and carried weapons that could destroy entire planets. The fleet commander sent one simple message to the Council. Surrender now or we will destroy everything. The Council panicked. Member species tried to gather their fleets, but they knew it was hopeless. The Wrath were too powerful. Within 3 days, 3 Council worlds had fallen. Millions of people were dead or enslaved. The Council begged humanity for help. Send your fleet, they pleaded. We need every ship we can get, but humanity said nothing. They did not send their fleet. They did not join the emergency meetings. They just watched and waited. Admiral Carl Bishop stood in Earth's Strategic Defense Headquarters, studying holographic displays that showed the Wrath fleet's movements. Around him, analysts worked at their stations, gathering every bit of information they could about the enemy. They are overconfident, Carl said quietly. They think their numbers and firepower make them invincible. Colonel Laura Hayes stood beside him. She had worked with Special Forces for 20 years. She knew what humanity was capable of. The Council wants us to send our fleet, she said. Carl smiled grimly. We are not sending the fleet. We are sending them. Operation Phantom Strike was the largest Special Forces deployment in human history. 500 operators launched from hidden bases across human space. They were divided into strike teams of 10 to 20 people each. Their mission was not to fight the Wrath fleet in open battle. That would have been impossible. Instead, they were going to destroy the fleet from within. The first target was the Wrath command ship. This massive dreadnought controlled the entire fleet. If it fell, the rest of the fleet would be in chaos. Commander Kate Morrison led the team that would infiltrate it. She was a legend now among special forces. She had completed 50 missions without a single failure. Kate's team used captured Wrath shuttles to approach the command ship. The shuttles broadcast Wrath identification codes, so the fleet's sensors thought they were friendly. The shuttles docked with the command ship without any problems. Once inside, Kate's team moved quickly through the ship. The Wrath crew never saw them. The humans wore suits that could change color to match their surroundings, making them nearly invisible. They planted explosives in key locations. They sabotaged life support systems. They assassinated important officers quietly and efficiently. Within hours, the command ship was crippled. Its communication system stopped working. Its weapons went offline. Its commanders were dead. The nerve center of the Wrath fleet was in chaos. Across the fleet, other special forces teams executed similar operations. They infiltrated supply ships and destroyed food and fuel reserves. They hacked into communication relays and spread false orders. They planted viruses in navigation computers that caused ships to drift off course. The Wrath had never faced an enemy like this. They were used to crushing their opponents with overwhelming force. But humans did not fight with force. They fought with intelligence and stealth. They struck at weak points the Wrath did not even know existed. Overlord Thrax, the Wrath Supreme Commander, watched his fleet fall apart. Ships lost power for no reason. Captains reported sabotage everywhere. Entire squadrons went silent and could not be contacted. His advisors spoke in frightened whispers about ghosts and invisible attackers. "Find these humans," Thrax roared at his officers. "Find them and kill them." But the humans were already gone. They completed their missions and disappeared before the Wrath could respond. By the time Wrath security teams arrived at sabotage locations, the humans had vanished like smoke. With the Wrath fleet in complete disarray, the Galactic Council finally mobilized its forces. Council warships attacked the confused and vulnerable enemy. The battle was brutal and bloody, but the outcome was never in doubt. The Wrath, who had seemed invincible just days before, were defeated completely. The surviving Wrath ships retreated in shame. They had lost nearly half their fleet. Their reputation as unstoppable conquerors was destroyed, and all because of 500 human operators. After the battle, the Galactic Council demanded answers. How did the humans achieve such a victory? What secret weapons did they use? How did so few operators defeat such a massive fleet? Admiral Carl Bishop stood before the assembled council delegates. His uniform was plain and simple. He looked like a normal military officer, but everyone in the room knew he commanded humanity's most dangerous forces. "You asked what makes humanity different," Carl said calmly. "You wanted to know why we fight the way we do?" He paused and looked at each delegate in turn. "We learned long ago that wars are not won by the strongest. They are won by the smartest, the most adaptable, and the most determined. We do not fight fair. We do not follow your rules of honorable combat. We fight to win, and we use every advantage we have." Some delegates looked horrified. Others looked impressed. But all of them understood the message. Humanity was not like other species. They were willing to do things that others considered dishonorable or unfair. And that made them incredibly dangerous. Years passed. The galaxy changed. Species that had once looked down on humanity now treated them with respect and caution. The Wrath Collective never attacked the Council again. Other aggressive empires became much more careful about who they threatened. Human special forces continued their work in the shadows. They rescued hostages from pirates. They stopped terrorist attacks before they could happen. They gathered intelligence on potential threats. They protected the innocent and punished the guilty. Most of the galaxy never saw them. Most people did not even know they existed. But those who knew about special forces spoke about them with a mixture of admiration and fear. In military academies across the galaxy, instructors taught young soldiers about humanity. They showed videos of human operations. They explained human tactics, and they always ended their lessons with the same warning. Never underestimate humans. Never think you are safe from them. And pray that you never have to face the ones they call special forces. Because if they come for you, there is nowhere you can hide. There is nothing you can do to stop them. They will find you. They will defeat you. And you will never see them coming until it is too late. The galaxy had learned its lesson. Humanity was not just friendly diplomats and helpful engineers. They were warriors of the highest caliber. They had turned warfare into an art form, and they were very, very good at it. Some species hated humans for it. Others admired them, but everyone respected them, and everyone was glad that humans were on their side. 10 years after the defeat of the Wrath Collective, the galaxy had settled into an uneasy peace. Trade flourished between species. Diplomatic relations improved. Wars became less common. The Galactic Council grew stronger and more effective at maintaining order. Everyone knew why. Humanity had changed everything. Their presence made aggressive species think twice before starting conflicts. Their special forces made criminal organizations more careful. Their intelligence networks made it harder for threats to grow in secret. But peace was never permanent. Evil never truly disappeared. It just hid and waited for opportunities. On a distant mining colony called New Haven, something terrible was happening. A new disease had appeared. People got sick suddenly and died within days. The colony's doctors could not identify the disease or find a cure. Within weeks, thousands were dead. The survivors were quarantined and terrified. The Galactic Council sent medical teams to investigate. What they found shocked them. The disease was not natural. It was a biological weapon. Someone had deliberately released it on New Haven. But who would do such a thing, and why? Commander Kate Morrison received the intelligence report while she was training new Special Forces operators at a secret base. She read it carefully, her expression growing darker with each page. This was not just terrorism. This was something much worse. Someone was testing biological weapons on innocent civilians. Kate immediately assembled her best team: Lieutenant Dan Carter, who had been her second in command for 15 years, Sergeant Amy Fletcher, who had never failed a mission, Lieutenant Jake Sullivan, who could infiltrate any facility, and 6 other operators who were among the best humanity had. "We have a job to do," Kate told them. "Someone attacked New Haven with a biological weapon. We are going to find out who did it, and we are going to stop them." The investigation took 3 weeks. Human intelligence agents traced the disease back to a secret laboratory on an abandoned station in neutral space. The laboratory belonged to a criminal organization called the Syndicate. They had been developing biological weapons for years, selling them to the highest bidder. The Syndicate was careful. They had powerful friends who protected them. They bribed officials and eliminated anyone who got too close to their operations. The Galactic Council had been trying to catch them for decades without success, but the Syndicate had never faced human special forces before. Kate's team approached the abandoned station in a stealth ship. The station looked old and empty from the outside, but their sensors detected power signatures and life signs inside. The Syndicate was there, hidden in the depths of the station. The team split into 3 groups. Dan would lead a group to secure the laboratory and gather evidence. Amy would lead a group to find and capture the Syndicate leaders. Kate would lead a group to locate and destroy all the biological weapons. They infiltrated the station through damaged airlocks. The Syndicate had guards everywhere, but these guards were not soldiers. They were criminals who relied on their weapons and numbers. They had never fought against trained operators before. The first guard never knew what hit him. Jake moved behind him silently and knocked him unconscious with a precise strike. The guard collapsed without making a sound. Jake dragged him into a dark corner and continued moving. Throughout the station, the same scene repeated itself. Guards disappeared one by one. The Syndicate members began to realize something was wrong, but by then it was too late. The humans were inside, and they were in control. Dan found the laboratory deep in the station's lower levels. It was a sophisticated facility with advanced equipment for creating and testing biological weapons. Dan's team carefully gathered samples and evidence while securing the area. Amy located the Syndicate leaders in a fortified conference room. They were having a meeting, discussing their next attack. Amy's team breached the room in seconds. The leaders barely had time to reach for their weapons before they were surrounded and captured. Kate found the weapons storage facility. Row after row of containers held different biological weapons, diseases that could kill millions, viruses that could wipe out entire species, all of it ready to be sold to the worst criminals in the galaxy. Kate set explosives throughout the storage area. These were special charges designed to burn at extremely high temperatures, hot enough to destroy any biological material completely. When she was done, she activated a timer and ordered her team to evacuate. The operation took 4 hours from start to finish. By the time the station's automated systems detected the intrusion, the humans were already leaving. The explosives detonated exactly on schedule, turning the weapons storage into a burning inferno. Not a single biological weapon survived. Kate's ship jumped away just as Galactic Council Peacekeepers arrived. The Peacekeepers found the captured Syndicate leaders, the evidence from the laboratory, and the destroyed weapons. They also found a message from the human special forces. The Syndicate has been neutralized. All biological weapons have been destroyed. The captured individuals should be prosecuted for crimes against sentient life. Evidence is attached. Special Forces, the Council was amazed once again. The humans had done in 4 hours what the Council could not do in decades. They had found the Syndicate, destroyed their weapons, and captured their leaders, all without asking permission or waiting for approval. Some Council members complained that humans were acting outside their authority. They argued that Special Forces should follow proper procedures and work with Council forces, but most Council members were just grateful. The Syndicate was gone. Their biological weapons were destroyed. Thousands, maybe millions of lives had been saved. Kate and her team returned to Earth quietly. There were no parades or medals. Special Forces operators did not seek recognition. They just moved on to the next mission. In the years that followed, human Special Forces conducted hundreds of similar operations. They stopped smugglers from moving illegal weapons. They rescued kidnapping victims from criminal gangs. They prevented terrorist attacks before they could happen. They protected colonies from raiders and pirates. The galaxy became safer because of their work. Crime rates dropped. Conflicts became less frequent. Innocent civilians could live their lives without constant fear. Young humans who wanted to serve their species competed for positions in Special Forces. The training was brutal and lasted years. Most applicants failed. Those who succeeded became part of an elite brotherhood and sisterhood that protected humanity and its allies. Other species tried to create their own Special Forces units. They studied human tactics and training methods. Some succeeded to a degree, but none ever matched the effectiveness of human Special Forces. The difference was not just training or technology. It was something deeper. Humans had spent thousands of years fighting each other on their home planet. They had learned every lesson that war could teach. They had developed warfare into a science and an art. They understood violence in ways that most species could not, but they also understood mercy. Special Forces operators did not kill unless absolutely necessary. They captured enemies when possible. They protected civilians at all costs. They followed rules of conduct that made them honorable warriors, not just killers. This combination of ruthless efficiency and moral restraint made them respected throughout the galaxy. Even species that feared humans admitted that Special Forces were not monsters. They were protectors. They were the galaxy's guardians in the darkness. 20 years after humans joined the Galactic Council, the galaxy was unrecognizable. Peace was not perfect, but it was stronger than ever before. Criminal organizations operated more carefully. Aggressive empires thought twice before invading neighbors. Terrorists found it much harder to plan attacks. Everyone knew why. Somewhere in the shadows, human Special Forces were watching. They were waiting for threats to emerge so they could eliminate those threats before innocent people got hurt. Parents told their children about Special Forces. Be good, they would say, because if you become a bad person, the humans will come for you, and you cannot hide from them. It was meant as a warning, but it was also the truth. The galaxy had learned to live with humans. They had learned to respect their strength and fear their capabilities. Most importantly, they had learned never to underestimate them, because humans called them Special Forces. And that name carried weight throughout the entire galaxy. It was a name that meant protection for the innocent and doom for the guilty. It was a name that made criminals think twice and tyrants hesitate. It was a name that the galaxy would remember forever.